Okay, maybe a couple more minutes before we start. We still have some people joining the webinar, but do not hesitate to let us know in the chat, for example, where you are from, so we can know more about you.
I'm here. Hello.
Hello, Aikel.
Okay.
Thank you
Good.
for joining. So I think that we can now start. I see that some more people joined the webinar, so that's great. Let me share my screen first. Okay. Mm. All right, let's start. Welcome everybody. Thank you very much for joining this today's webinars. Very specific one. Today we are going to talk about one of our programs at Forwards College, which is our BSc in Economics and Management. But before we start, that would be fantastic if our team could introduce themselves. I can quickly start. So my name is Clément Margiota. I'm a recruitment and admissions officer at Forwards College. And maybe I've been in touch with some of you before by email or even at your school, maybe. It's a pleasure to be here. I will let Mariana maybe introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Clema. So, hi everyone, my name is Mariana. I'm Portuguese. I am the head of economics here at Forward College. But more importantly, I am in Lisbon and I'll be your economics and statistics teacher if you do join Forward College. So, I have a PhD from Maastricht University and I've been at Forward since 2023 because I am a big enthusiast of our pedagogy on flipped classroom. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. With us, we have Zanet also.
Yeah, thank you. So hi everyone. I'm alumni of Ford College. So I graduated in 2025 from the Economics and Politics program. But happy to take questions in the end about student life at Ford College or about the program in general, of course. And yeah, happy to be here and share some of the knowledge of the past 3 years.
Thank you so much. And last but not least, Heikel.
Hi, everyone. I'm Heikel. I am the head of business and management at Forward College, and I am based in the Berlin campus. So if you come to Forward, I will see you on your final year as you're about to graduate. And I teach for the coming years, it'll be entrepreneurship and strategy, which are some of the core modules for business and management.
Thank you so much. So just before we start, maybe just a reminder that if you have any questions, do not hesitate to send them in the chat, and we will take some time at the end of the presentation to answer your question. All right. Thank you. I will let, I think, Mariana or Heiko start.
So I'll kick us off to talk a little bit about what makes Forward College unique. I'm sure many of you now are considering several different options and several different degree programs and several different colleges as well. For Forward, we try to bring a lot of things together. So on the one hand, we have our world-class bachelors, which is our partnership with LSE and UOL, which allows us to use the content and apply the content and some of the lessons that UOL would like you to have. So therefore, you would graduate with a degree that is recognized by UOL. But on top of that, what makes us really unique, I think, is the fact that we have small class sizes. So in many universities, you would normally be in a lecture hall with 60, 70, 80 students, and oftentimes your professors might not even know who you are or have very little interaction with you on a one-to-one basis. But we don't do that at Forward. Instead, we have small class sizes of less than 15 students. So every time you meet your professors on a weekly basis, definitely they would know who you are, and definitely will be able to identify some of your strengths, some of your weaknesses. And especially for us in Berlin in the third year, we are able to hopefully help you to advise you on what's the next step after you graduate, right? Would it be better to do a postgraduate degree? What kind of jobs would be interesting for you, etc. And then, of course, we also have the leadership program that is really something that is from Forward itself, which allows you to do problem-based learning across the 3 years. And the 3 years will have different projects, different scopes, and will give you different skills. So in the third year, for example, it culminates in a consultancy project where you would actually work with a real company and you would try to solve a real problem that they're having. And you'll be working in small teams. And by that time, of course, you will be supported with personal development classes where you would understand the importance of communication, how to communicate, how to present yourself, etc., etc. Right? So this, I think, is one of the very key things that Forward provides. That is not necessarily the case in many other institutions. And last, of course, we are very international. Just the path that you're going to take itself is indeed very unique. You'll be spending 3 years in 3 different cities, as you probably know by now. First year is in Lisbon, second in Paris, and the third year in Berlin. And our student cohort is also very diverse because of our international inclinations, right? So you would probably have a lot of you make new friends from all over the world, and you would be able to learn a little bit more about the different cultures and different places. And I know, for example, in Berlin, several summer vacation trips are being planned as part of graduation trips that are taking some of the students as far away as Nairobi, being hosted by one of our own students here. So some interesting adventures ahead. Okay, so as I said before, this is the more important things, right? What do you end up with when you graduate from Forward? And it is, beyond everything else, it is a UOL degree that is guided by the LSE. So the curriculum is from the LSE, but your awarding body will be the UOL. And how Forward teaches this content is through these small class sizes on campus. But at the end of the day, our role is to prepare you for those LSE exams. Our role is to prepare you to do as best as possible for these examinations that are coming up. But we do it in our own Forward methodology that will hopefully put you in a very strong position to take the examinations. So Economics and management, two very, very, as you know, Mariana is head of economics and I am head of business and management. And they are two extremely important disciplines in today's context. I think it looks at the world in two different ways, whereas economics, I'll leave it to Mariana to expand on that. But as far as business, or as far as management is concerned, it is a lot of important knowledge, skills, experiences that one would need to excel in the working world, and not just excel in terms of the amount of effort you put in or the amount of creativity you have, but rather knowing certain skills or certain principles that would allow you to excel even faster.
Would you like me to chip in with my econ perspective, Michael? Yeah. Okay. So I actually picked that that sentence from Keynes because I think it explains very well a misconception, or it highlights a misconception that we all have about economics. So we often think about economics as laws of how markets function and the doctrine of how the economy should or will function. But I don't believe this. I believe, as Keynes said very well, that economics is a framework to think about the real world. So it's an organized way of looking at it. And we often do this by analyzing data, but also by reflecting on the behaviors that and the stylized facts that we see in the world. So economics as a discipline will train you to systematically break down these very complex systems, and it empowers you with the quantitative logic and the tools to, for instance, make forecasts or to make better informed decisions under uncertainty. So again, it's a framework that you use when analyzing, for example, a social issue, and not necessarily a set of laws of how markets behave. I think we can move on, Clement, to the next.
All right. So in order to tackle this economics and management program, there are a number of modules that we have identified that will be essential for you to have the basics in order to proceed. So in the first year, it will be a lot of introductory modules that gives you a very good idea of some of these topics. So from the management point of view, it will be business and management in a global context, as well as the principles of accounting, which is an extraordinarily important skill set for you to have when you want to apply yourselves in the business environment. And for economics, it will be introduction to economics and statistics and mathematics. To be fair, statistics and mathematics would also be useful for principles of accounting and also useful for business and management. So you can see this more as the first year being a very broad year where you get to sample a wide range of knowledge that are overlapping in a way, but they form the basis of what you need moving forward as well, not just in the first year, but also in the second and the third year. In the second year is when things become a little bit more specific. So from the business point of view, it will be the core management concepts. This is where you will be learning about different theories, different case studies that are associated with management itself. And how do you actually manage a firm? How do you manage a team? How do you manage a team, not just simply from the people context, but from the context of achieving results? Is it revenue? Is it profit? Is it customer engagement? What, right? So these are the things we consider. And then you will also take marketing management or financial management, but marketing management will be a little bit more towards the management side, the business side, because it's a very important tool for you to communicate your ideas, your thoughts, your perspectives, especially from a business standpoint, to the wider audience, right? But economics, of course, will be dealing with macro and micro topics. So this is when economics starts to get a little bit more specific to the different perspectives. financial management will be something that is a build-up of principles of accounting. And yes, it is a bit math heavy, financial management, but nevertheless, again, these are built on the skills that you've already picked up from year one. So by then you would be able to understand what will be your steps moving forward. What are your interests? What are you good at? What are you actually interested to delve deeper in? So when you get to Berlin, the core modules that you have to take will be two macroeconomic modules, international economics, or the world economy from industrial revolution to the present, so history of economics a little bit, right? And you will get to select one from either strategy or entrepreneurship, or the other two economics modules that we are offering. Industrial economics, I think at this point, is dealing with microeconomic topics, but I'm not sure whether this will be you'll probably be around by the time you get here. We were not having it next year, but we'll probably make a comeback. It's a very popular module. We love it. Anything to add, Mariana? Excellent. Okay, next slide. Okay, so these are some of the colleagues that I have that are in the business and management group. To be fair, these are not all the fellows that are supporting business and management. You will see many other faces, but these are our core group. Myself in the third year, Pedro, who is teaching the first year courses, and will provide you a very strong introduction to management and business in general, because this is what he is specialized in. And Dr. Florence Pinto, who is doing no, I don't think it's Dr. Florence Pinto actually. I'm pretty sure he's Pablo, right? Dr. Pablo, who is our expert in finance. So he will be taking you through principles of accounting and the more skills-based part of the program. So these are, and we also have a hugely talented set of fellows who are dealing with economics and the quant subject. So if you are a little bit apprehensive with the math that is involved, I can tell you that you'll be in great hands. Mariana and Marcelo in Lisbon will provide you with the basics that you need in terms of the economics theories, as well as the mathematical knowledge that you need to have to actually calculate these things. And it is going to be a challenge, of course, if it is not something that you are particularly excited by, but it's not a challenge that cannot be overcome. And I think these fellows have come up with the best ways in which to tailor the content in order to accentuate your strengths to overcome your weaknesses. So do not be afraid of numbers. Unfortunately, that's some of the there's some things that I realized from my own business students. They're always a little bit afraid of numbers, and there's nothing to be afraid of. And I'm sure Mariana can attest to that. Okay, so now for the more important question, right? So I have you finish your management and economics degree, and now you're wondering, what can I do after that, right? So I think that management and economics provides a very important balance between theoretical knowledge and knowledge of things that are that allows you to understand the world beyond just the business, right? Because a business doesn't exist on its own. It's not an island on its own. It's contextualized to the city that you're in, the economy that you're in, the global economy, and all these things are very, very keen to be understood. And that's where the economics part comes in, right? So which makes you have a very strong position if you wanted to apply for government or non-profit organizations, as well as management consulting roles, where you would have to consider the implications of the wider economy on the firm and the firm on the wider economy, maybe. And then also if you were to start your own business, be an entrepreneur. You would need to understand as much knowledge as possible, not just about the product that you sell or the customers that you have, but also about how do you understand the ways in which you can benefit from a monopoly or a duopoly, or if such a situation were to arise, how do you react to it? So we try to understand the world of business in a very systematic way, right? So that we can compartmentalize it and tackle the different problems associated with that. Also, thanks to the quant knowledge that you are going to gather, roles that involve analytics, right? So as a business analyst or even as a change leader, this would all be highly relevant to you from as you move forward after Forward College.
Okay, thank you so much, Michael, for the nice introduction to the Econ Management program. So now I'm going to tell you a bit more about Forward and how we teach at Forward. So Clement, if I may ask you to change slide. Okay, so the first thing, and this is something that Michael already highlighted in the beginning, teaching is quite personalized at Forward. So there is, as Michael said, there are no big lecture halls with 200, 500 students inside where the professor speaks and the students take notes. So here we have small classrooms, so around 15 students, and we also give you regular feedback on how you're doing on your performance. And we do this through one-to-one tutoring, but also by having regular formative assessments. So you will have an assessment per week, and these are formative. It means that it does not count to a summative grade, right? The purpose is to give you feedback, to let you know how well you're doing. And that's always the basis that then leads to one-to-one tutoring and even more regular peer mentoring. So what also makes Forward very special, besides this more personalized teaching, is the active learning pedagogy that I mentioned at the beginning, that I'm a big fan of. So it rests on the module of flipped classroom. A flipped classroom does not focus on the teacher, it focuses on the student, okay? So the students are the focus inside the classroom, and they do lead the discussion in the classroom. To be able to do this, you must prepare beforehand, right? It does not mean that you will lecture your colleagues. That's not the point at all. It means that you will do your autonomous learning, readings, video lectures, whatever resources are given to you by your teacher at home, at your own pace, okay? You may even meet with some of your colleagues to discuss the more complex topics that you are reading about, that you struggled understanding. And then you come to the classroom with your teacher, and the teacher is there to guide the discussion, to provide a red thread to the whole class, so that it makes sense, so that it is structured in a way that it builds on your knowledge that you brought from home. But don't expect teachers to talk for 2 hours or maybe even more than 10 minutes, because that's in a row, because that's not the point of flipped classroom. So the active learning pedagogy as inside it, the flipped classroom, the project-based learning or problem-based learning, depending on the modules you're taking. So this means that there is always space in the classroom to make a social issue, an exercise, a problem, the center of the class, and we all work together as a team to solve it. So there is a lot of teamwork during the class, during the seminar, but also outside of the classroom. And in a few minutes, I'll give you an example of this teamwork outside of the classroom. But so far, results are really good, and we got Best Student Teacher Interaction Award in 2025. So it seems that things are going pretty fine with this teaching strategy we have at Forward. Thank you, Clement. Okay, so how does an economics class look like? And this is where I'm gonna give you some examples of what you can expect specifically. So we already said at the beginning that economics is at the intersection of the social sciences and the real world. So we always try to bring a bit of the real world inside the classroom, or we leave the classroom and we go into the real world. But while inside the classroom, seminars are structured, or they have a general structure. So we start the seminar, the class, with questions that the students have from the readings or from the video lectures. What was not clear? What couldn't you understand? And you couldn't understand on your own, with the readings, with your peers that you may have met before, or even with the help of your AI buddies, okay? So that's where you start. What are the outstanding queries? And after those are clarified by either the teacher or the colleagues in the classroom, so the idea is that we build knowledge all together. So if one of your colleagues has a very good understanding of the concept you're struggling with, they will always be given the word first to attempt explaining. That also helps students build communication skills, right? And only then the teacher will wrap it around and phrase it beautifully with a bow on top. So we start with Q&A, and at the end, we move to small group activities. And these small group activities aim at allowing you to apply your theoretical knowledge to real world events. So we try to always bring the real world inside the classroom. When there is no time, we also do some simulation games or additional exam exercises from past years to help you prepare for the final exam. So there is a lot of peer learning. There is a very inclusive atmosphere, in the sense that it is a conversation among several people, and we are all trying to reach a goal together. There is no right or wrong in terms of questions. You can always ask what you're struggling with, as long as you come prepared, right? We also assume that you bring some knowledge and you just don't come to, I don't know anything, please lecture me, right? But if you're interested about Forward, I'm sure that's not your mindset. Okay, and the last thing is that the econ classroom, as well as the stats and the math classroom, they are all very multidisciplinary, because we have people from economics and politics, data science, pure economics, business management, economics management. So we don't have, unfortunately, PIR students in our classes. That would be very interesting. But now I'm going to ask Clement to change slide, and I'm going to ask Aiko, yes, to tell us how it's a management class.
Okay, I mean, there are some similarities between the econs and the business and management classes, because at the end of the day, that's part of Forward's methodology, right? This flipped classroom approach. So you would have to come prepared for these classes. You would have to go through the material and understand a little bit about what the topic is about, right? And from there is when the conversation begins. So at the start of the class will involve a quick round of Q&A. Should anything be confusing or unclear, and we will try to rectify that as quickly as possible. And by having a discussion with your fellow classmates, we could actually understand from the class itself if anybody has understood it and could explain it better, right? Or could explain it well. And this is, of course, part of your training, part of your learning, and building confidence, building knowledge. But the thing about business and management and why it's very interesting is because it is really at the crossroad of real world practice and social sciences, right? So even if we're talking about entrepreneurship, for example, right, as a subject, you would need to understand quite a lot about how the world works before you can actually apply yourself to the world. So there are topics that we would have, for example, understanding your consumers. So understanding your consumers would be relating to several social science topics like psychology, for example, consumer psychology, or even understanding the social structure of the environment that you're trying to enter, for example, right? Who has more authority, who has more power, who has more buying power, for example, who will be responsible for advising someone to make a purchase? Is it the parents? Is it the friends? Is it an ad, an advertisement, a video, a social influencer, what, right? So these are the things that we try to understand. Then that's an example of how business and management is very much embedded into a wider world. But of course, we want to distill that into very clear case studies, right? Very clear topics. So case studies are something very important for business and management, because by looking at the success or failures of some companies or some organizations, we can understand and reverse engineer where they went wrong and how does that match with theory and how does it not match with the theory. And we would, of course, do this through various ways. So teamwork, for example, you would have to do presentations, right? Doing a case study, picking a case study of your own and making a pitch about it, right? Especially for entrepreneurship, you would have to pitch your business to actually, it's more of an exercise for you to be aware of what value proposition you're trying to sell. What are you trying to sell, actually? And where are you trying to do it, right? So if you can convince yourself, then that's the first step. If you cannot convince yourself, then it is a problem. And how are you going to convince people to buy your product if you're not convinced, right? So this is part of the training that you have, right? So we have a lot of, we try to have as many of these activities as possible where you are interacting not just with the professor, but also with your classmates in the class itself, right? So this will involve presentations. This will involve, sometimes we do quizzes, sometimes we do a quiz in which you are split into teams, and you have to answer the questions, and the winner gets a prize, maybe, right? So we try to make it as fun as interactive as possible. But of course, it has to be. It's not something that happens every week. It depends on the topic, right? It depends on the depth that we need you to go, right? So some topics are a little bit more complex and might involve a little bit more exercises, right? Some topics are a little bit more application based, and therefore we can be a bit more free with the concept.
Thank you so much, Michael. Okay, and as I said before several times, sometimes we go out into the real world, and so we do have, for example, field trips. We will have a field trip next week, which is actually a partnership between economics and management here in Lisbon. We will take our students to a winery, but also a monastery, where they will encounter different types of organizations who function in very different ways. So we will apply our knowledge during our field trip. But we often also have on-campus guests and career talks. These can give you an idea of what are the options, what can I do afterwards. You can meet people who are actually doing the jobs and having the careers that you would be interested in, give you contact with them. If you are not very scared of numbers, maybe you would like to join our research seminars and have an idea of what research fellows at Forward College are doing. And the last thing is these multidisciplinary gatherings that we have, either in project-based learning courses, or even, for example, putting together politics and international relations students with economics students to talk about the same social issue. Two very different social sciences, two very different perspectives in the end, it's the same problem. Can we learn from one another? And students tend to like this very much, maybe because there is food and it's over lunchtime, or maybe because the discussions are just very fruitful for everyone. Okay. Last but not least on my side, but not least because then Janet will take over. So the leadership program. Okay, when you join Forward College, you choose a program, right? A topic. Do you want, for example, today we are talking about economics and management. And that's the program that you have chosen. It's the economics and management program. Now, on top of this, you can choose whether you want to take additional entrepreneurship projects. Okay, and these include at least 2 modules per year. So when you make this choice, you make a choice for 3 years to do this. And there will be a project-based module and there will be a personal development module. And the entrepreneurship projects on the first year are on social impact and sustainability. On the second year in Paris, it's about digital entrepreneurship. And on the third year, you can choose between consulting or research. But this is an add-on that you can put on top of your econ and management program. And I think that's it for me.
Thank you so much to both of you for introducing this program at Forwards College. Now I will let maybe Zanet bring us to the three countries experience.
Yeah, thank you, Clément. Yeah, so I mean, as you guys may already know, joining for college also means embarking on moving around for 3 years. So you will start in your first year in Lisbon, and then you'll move on to Paris for the second year, and then to Berlin in your third year. So you're moving with the same people. However, your professors, whom we call fellows, they are based in one of the cities. So you will be meeting new fellows each year, but your peers will be traveling with you, which is super fun because basically it feels like you're studying and traveling with your friends for 3 years. We all have dedicated learning centers in each of the cities, so you can see the photos of these buildings on the right. There are a lot of more than 40 nationalities studying together, living together on the forward campuses. So it really is a very, very international community. On the next slide, you'll see a photo of one of the Lisbon Learning Centers. So Lisbon is special in the sense that we have two learning centers. And on the next photo, you see the Soriano one. This is the newest one that opened, I think, last year. So I myself, for example, haven't even seen it. It's so new. And it's about a 10-minute walk from the other learning center, which is in Rua das Flores. So they're both very, very central, next to the site. It's a 5-minute walk from the river. On the Soriano one, there is a terrace, which I heard from the students currently in Lisbon that they really, really like. Meditation room to take a break from the studies or chat with your friends. And again, Lisbon has an amazing weather all year long, so you can really make the most out of being super close to everything. This is the Florist Learning Center, one of the rooms there, where I spent most of my time in the first year in Lisbon. And then I think, yeah, we have a photo of the meditation room in the Forest Learning Center, which is really just a place to take a nap if it's exam season. Otherwise, it's a no electronic space, so you can read a book or just sort of decompress a little bit between classes. And yeah, some of the co-working spaces. So this is, for example, a dedicated co-working space for college students. So it is in the building next to where your residence will be. So all students have guaranteed housing in Shior residence in Benfica. And the building next to us is the co-working space. So you can see a photo here. The students usually organize sort of the community events here as well. But you can also just access this room as basically a library. So it's open from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day. You have a code, you can go in and out whenever you want to. It really is a super nice place to revise for exams, to maybe watch a movie with your friends. So it really is sort of a multi-purpose space. And then the student residence. So each of the rooms are individual rooms, and then you also have your own bathroom, maybe your own kitchen if you end up opting for the studio option. Fairly new residence, I think. I lived there myself as well when I was there. And I would always encourage students to move in because it's super nice to live with the other Forward College student. It sort of helps create an even stronger community. Plus, you have the co-working space right next to you, which is super, super nice. And then I think Lisbon student life sort of feels like a vacation, and especially in the beginning of the year when the weather truly is amazing. You can go surfing, you can play beach volleyball, explore the city. But as the year goes on and maybe the studies become a bit heavier, you still have sort of a very nice and welcoming environment. Everything usually works in English, everyone speaks English. So also there are a lot of international students besides for college students, so you can meet people even outside of university if you want to. And then moving on to my personal favorite city, which is Paris. And I liked it so much, I decided to come back after graduating from Forward. So you can see in the background the main building, I would say, where our learning center is located, actually on the left side of this building. This is in Cité Internationale, which is a sort of an international campus south of Paris, in the southern side of Paris, in the 14th district. So there are a lot of students here who are coming to Paris to study, and so are the former college students. We have our classes. I think we're probably the only university in Cité Universitaire where we also have our classes here in the main building. So you can see the typical decoration of one of the Forward College classrooms. You always find a couch somewhere in there. And you also have a library in the main building, which you can access for free if you live on campus. Super nice place where I did most of my exam revision in the second year. Then you can also benefit from all the sports facilities on campus. There's, I think, more than 50 different sports you can try. You just buy sort of a very discounted sports pass in the beginning of the year, and then you can go as many times as you want. You also have a swimming pool in the main building. I, for example, play volleyball 3 times a week, which was super nice. So there are a lot of amenities, and sort of the second year resembles a lot like sort of a typical American university experience where you'll get the chance to live on campus. You have a lot of sports amenities, a very nice buzzing community life as well with other students than for college students too. And then student residencies. So this is a year where you have the option to really live on campus. So in Lisbon and Berlin, you may live in residencies which requires a little bit of a commute. They're still in the city, so probably a metro right away. But in Paris, the guaranteed accommodation is actually at Cité Universitaire, so where you will be having your classes, so you can just walk to the classes in the beginning of the day. So I think there's photos of the inside of the rooms in the next slides. Again, it's a really sorry, we don't have that, but you can look up on the website. They're also really nice rooms. You have different options to have your own bathroom shared with the others, have your own kitchen shared with the others. I again lived here in my second year, and for non-French speakers, would highly recommend doing so because you really become part of a very international community by doing so, and it makes life super easy. And student life in Paris, I mean, needless to say, Paris, probably you never run out of things to do in Paris. A lot of museums, a lot of cultural events. The food is great. You can always get a coffee sitting outside of a cafe and or like go on day trips with your friends. There are just so many things to see. I felt like I haven't finished my sort of Parisian era in my life after 1 year. So I think even now, having lived here for 2 years, there are still things you can see. And then moving on to the third year, which is Berlin, you can see this our learning center in the background. So the learning center is located in a co-working place called CIC, and this is in the Kreuzberg district of Berlin. So this is the communal kitchen, which we share with other companies who are also at the building, in the building. So Berlin sort of feels like a nice easing into the work environment uh, type of location because you are surrounded by a lot of companies, startups. This is the restaurant you can access. So you sort of start chatting with people who are already working in your coffee break between classes. It's a super, super nice building, open 24/7 every day. So exam revision is really easy in Berlin. And then there are a lot of things you can do. I think in the next, yeah, we have the student accommodation. Berlin is again, differs a bit from the other cities. So you may opt for a residency, like in the first year in Lisbon, or you can also do a flat share with others, which is coordinated by Forward. There is this housing agency in Berlin who is working with Forward, and they have some flats in this building, and not so far away from the learning center. So this is what I ended up doing as well. I live with two forward college students. And yeah, student life in Berlin. I think Berlin is a very livable city. I highly recommend everyone getting a bike. I biked for the first time in my life to classes to get around. It's a really, really livable place, and there are a lot of things to explore, a lot of students, and probably the most English friendly out of all the cities, even though you probably won't face any issues in either of the cities by not speaking the local language. But there, Berlin has a lot to offer, and I think a lot of my classmates ended up staying in Berlin after the third year. That's how much they liked it. So yeah, I'm happy to take questions in the end if you have any about any of the cities or just the student experience in general. And back to you, Clement. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience. And actually, on the same topic, I wanted to let you know that you have the possibility to book a chat with one of our students. You can do it from our website. You have the link here. You can also send them an email to this specific email address. But it's a very good way to ask any question you may have for them. It can be about the relationship with the teachers, the like well, we already talked today, for example, about the content of the classes, but if you need more details, if you have more curiosity, you can also ask about it, the student life, the transition between a country to another one. So please do not hesitate to book a chat with one of our students. I would like to go through another topic that is usually of interest to you. It's about admissions and the entry in the academic requirements for our degrees and maybe more specifically for this one. So we do accept many different curriculums. You have an example of some of them here on the slide. So for example, for the students studying the IB curriculum, we ask for a minimum of 35 points out of 45. For the A levels, it will be an equivalent to ABB across three A levels. But we also accept many national curriculums. So for example, if you are from France, we do accept the French Baccalaureate, the Italian Esame di Stato, the German Abitur, and many others. So you can check more information on our website about it. Um, Something also that I want to discuss is the way you apply at Forwards College. It's quite easy, very straightforward. You have to start your application from our website. There is no application fees. You just have to create your personal area. And basically, there are two sections. One section is more about the academic results. So we will ask you to share your transcripts from the penultimate and final year if you already have them available. Our admissions open usually in September or October, so you can apply with the documents you already have at that moment. Here it's specified that you need some English proficiency proof. It's not really needed when you start your application, and you can even submit your application without the English test. However, if we need you to provide one, we'll put a condition on your offer if you're given an offer to provide an English test. Again, there is more information on which are the English tests that we accept at Forwards on our website. For students studying in an English speaking country or in a non-English speaking country but in an English speaking school, you don't necessarily need to send an English test, but you can check with us if you need. That would be the two exceptions. But if not, you will need to provide an English test. And the second section is more about your extracurricular activities. This is something that we value a lot at Forwards College because, as you can see, we are quite a unique institution, so we look for very specific profiles. And of course, you need to meet the academic requirements, but we also like to know more about you and to see that you've been involved in things outside of the classroom. So do not hesitate to list the activities you've been doing or you are doing outside of the classroom. It can be anything from music to volunteering, sports, anything that you want to share with us. The important for us is to see what are the learnings for you and what you can bring to the Forwards community as a student. And then, if your application is deemed eligible, you will be invited to an interview. It's an admissions interview that is online in English. It usually lasts 30 minutes, more or less. It's not really an evaluation. It's more for us to know you better, to go maybe a bit more deeper into your extracurricular. It's also a good moment for you to ask questions if you still have some questions and if you're hesitating between 1 or 2 degrees or the intensity of the degree, for example. So this is a good way for us to assess your motivation to join Forwards College. A good tip that I would suggest, we were talking about chatting with students. I would really recommend you to book a chat with our ambassadors before you do the interview because they can give you some tips on how to prepare for the interview. We are already in our fourth and last wave of application that is ending at the end of May. So if you're interested to join Forwards in September 2026 and you haven't submitted your application yet, I strongly encourage you to do it before this deadline. Again, if you have more questions, feel free to send us an email, to book a chat with us, with the admissions team. We are super happy to help you, but we are getting closer to the last admissions wave. Here you have actually our contact details. So this is the admissions and recruitment team at Forwards. So do not hesitate to to send us an email. As I told you, we can also have a chat together. If you want your parents to be involved in a chat or in a conversation, we are very happy to organize it too. So take some notes. You will also find this information on our website anyway. So we'll be super happy to discuss with you further. All right. Do we have any questions? Check the chat. So maybe one question that could be for the three of you, actually, Mariana, Hekel, and Zanet. What's one concept or course in this degree, the economics and management, that students usually find interesting? Someone wants to
Go
start?
first, sorry.
Yeah.
I'd say academically, anytime we can engage in debates always sort of is a very interesting moment for the students because I think one thing that maybe the students don't expect coming to Forward is the amount of knowledge you can get from the other students. You think sort of coming to university, you will be learning mostly from your professors, and one of the perks of the flipped classroom approach is surely the fellows, of course, provide the basis and also sort of the higher level knowledge, but sort of in between the two, you also get the students who are bringing their inputs. And I think it's a really interesting way of learning, and you sort of get very sensible to very different ways of looking at things, especially if you're talking about a more qualitative subject where you sort of maybe got like a bigger margin of movement, not talking about mathematics where you're probably there's always one right answer. But I think that's a very academically interesting factor. And then I think overall about a Forward College, I think it's always the community. If you guys talk to other Forward College students, I think it's one of the first two things that they mention is how great the community is. It's really, I think it's a very supportive community, really super international. I don't think there's anything like the Forward College community in Europe. you'll always, no matter what university you go to, you will have a dominant nationality or sort of a dominant path people have taken before coming to university. And at Forward, I think you get very open-minded, curious people who are ready to learn and ready to meet others and form connections. And I think that's super unique about Forward.
Thank you. I don't know if Mariana or Heikel wants to add something.
Well, I would just give an example of what Janet just said, which is in year one, out of the 5 courses that students have, the one that they like the most is, of course, not accounting, unfortunately, not econ, but it's management in a global context with Pedro. So that's their favorite course in year one. And it's true that it is the one that gives you more scope for discussions and debate.
All right. Thank you. Maybe another question. What does a typical week look like at Forward? Maybe Janet can answer.
Yeah. I think that can depend on what program you're doing. So we have 3 formats, right? A simple bachelor, bachelor plus, a double bachelor. These sort of different formats require different number of hours dedicated to your academics. So I mean, I can speak from experience. I've done the bachelor plus, so that's sort of the in between of doing double bachelor and doing a normal bachelor. Um, I think I had about 16 hours of in-class time. That includes seminars, tutorials. Tutorials are one-on-one sessions with your fellows where you go through your formative assessment or just your academic path in the course that the fellow is teaching to you. Um, then also you have a lot of group work, whether that's preparing for the classes or if you're doing the business leadership program with Forward, then basically every project you're doing is a group project. So you have to have meetings with the others, meeting with the mentors, meeting maybe with a client if it's your third year consulting project. So I think that would also take up to 4 hours of your week, plus then you work individually or with others preparing for the classes, which definitely takes up at least as much time as the in-class time, because flipped classroom approach presupposes that you do some work before coming to the classroom. And I think students very quickly realize that it is worth indeed to put those hours in before you come to the classroom, because then it makes a lot more sense what you are doing in the seminar if you actually have done the readings, done the exercises. So I think depending on what kind of learner you are, what works best for you, you may do that individually, you may do that with others. So I think overall I spent, yeah, about 40 hours, I think, on my academics a week. So, but that's everything included from studying to in-class time to everything else. And then I think there are also more intense periods, less intense periods. So you definitely have time to go to the gym. But again, the rhythm kind of differs a lot by from city to city, and you definitely have a lot of time to explore the city. I think the first 3 months is sort of the touristed period of time when you have to check everything that was on your bucket list, and you go explore the city. You go and sort of do everything maybe like an exchange student would, and then second semester is where you start feeling like more of a local, and it starts to become your home. So that then I think the rhythm becomes maybe a lot calmer and a lot more predictable. But I think yeah, I hope I summarize it right. But then it also really depends on student to student what you spend your free time with. But you definitely have time to make the most out of the fact that you're in different cities each year.
All right. Thank you. Maybe an additional question. Do I need a strong background in math or economics before applying? Maybe I can start answering this. Um, in terms of requirements for economics, it's not mandatory, but I mean, if you study economics, it's already a plus. It's a key subject, so it's great, and you probably have some knowledge that you will be able to use. But there is no specific requirements for that subject. In terms of mathematics, yes, there is some requirements. So depending on the diploma you're doing or the curriculum you're following, you would need to meet a minimum requirements. For example, if you are doing the the IB diploma, we will ask you to get a minimum of 5 out of 7 in mathematics. For the A levels, well, it's a minimum of ABB across 3 A levels, and one of your A levels needs to be mathematics. So we do need you to have some knowledge in mathematics, some background. Worst case scenario, there is always the possibility for you to take a mathematic test. It's a test from the LSE, the London School of Economics. It's called Math Essentials. And in case you don't meet the mathematics requirements, you could be well, you could have the opportunity to take that test to be eligible for the degree. I think this is it. I don't know if my colleagues want to add anything to that. Oh, good. Perfect. All right. Thank you so much to the three of you and for everybody for attending this webinar. I hope that you have learned a lot of things. Again, if you have more questions that are coming to your mind, do not hesitate to contact us. Book this chat with our students, and it will be a great pleasure to meet you in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Bye bye.